Order the Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting. Attendance, please.
Yes. Alderman Longley? Here. Alderman Hudson?
Here.
Alderman Wilkins?
Present.
Alderman Stevens? Alderman Rogers?
Present.
Alderman Magley?
Yep.
All right, we have a quorum. You join me in pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, that brings us to number 4, which is comments from citizens. Not seeing any, we will close out number 4 and move on to Public Works. You stepping in today?
Yep.
Oh, the activity reports in the
You
packet.
can tell you're excited.
I was like, wait a minute, I'm missing something.
The young man, he's nervous.
So anything major going on you want to point out to us?
Well, we've been replacing a bunch of patches over on South Central, and we've put in quite a few culverts, ditching, got the snow plows ready and leaf beds in the trucks, salt stockpiled out there, so we're ready for a storm when it happens.
That's like right your time. Okay. So anything in the other sections? Move into there? So we'll move on to water and sewer. Matt?
Water side, just some new construction stuff going on that we've gotten caught up on, and most of our time we have been dealing with the lime slaker. Just a little update on that. Last time I told you we were kind of working and getting in the right direction. We are not heading in the right direction anymore. We are going backwards. Mike and I have had, and Heather had a meeting last week, I think it was. I don't know, it's all running together, but it's just not what we need at this moment. They've tried to kind of fabricate some things. It's not working, and so we're kind of at a standstill with the slaker at this point. We're waiting on a return email to see what they suggest we do next. So that's going to be a pretty hot topic for the next couple of weeks, I have a feeling.
Definitely.
So, but on the water side, that's about it on that.
So where's Barley and West stand on this?
Do you?
They're kind of with us on, we need to be pushing, and we've reached out to them to say, this is what they're trying, we're not getting what you suggest we do at this. We gave them basically to the end of the year. Matt wrote a really good email today to kind of spell out everything that we're expecting, and didn't get a response back. And that was early this morning.
And that was to Barley and West?
This was to Velodyne. We included Bartlett and West on everything we're doing right now with this situation. General contractor's been contacted.
And this does fall back on the general contractor for this project.
And he found the specifications today. He looked through and found those, that it was very clear, because it acted like the specifications were pretty broad, and weren't pretty direct without question of what the operating range needed to be for the performance of the unit. And so now it's just down to, they've asked me if I was gonna be around. I said I would be for the next phase of this, because we're in fact gonna make somebody.
Yeah, so, basically, the moral of the story is when they spec'd the slaker, they didn't read the specs. They just assumed a feed rate, and its size is way too big for our plant, for what we need to feed. In the specs, we range from 50 to like 28, and they started us up at 155. So obviously feeding 3 or 4 times more than what we needed. So it just has been a mess from the get-go. They admitted they missed the specs, so they're in a corner now, so.
I find it interesting, this whole deal. I'll tell you this, that Velodyne, they don't make a slaker any smaller than the one that we got.
than the one we have now.
That's right. So I don't know if they didn't see the spec or they just determined to, I can't speak for them, but I find it interesting that they don't have a slate of the right size of what we need to meet the range of what we need to operate in. So it's gonna be quite a festive end of the year here.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Yep, that's it on water.
Okay.
Do you wanna talk water meters now or wait, or?
I do. So we had talked about having some more information about the ARPA funding and those projects available at this meeting. We've had some conversations with departments and specifically the police department, and there may be some more public safety items that we'd like to add to this list before we make any final decisions. However, the water meter situation, we do need to make some sort of a decision on that sooner rather than later because the costs keep coming up. They've gone up, what, twice since we got the original bid? And how many meters are we adding that don't read a month?
Got anywhere from 140 to 190 each month that aren't reading.
So Matt had a suggestion that maybe we, instead of doing a complete change out all at once, maybe we look at doing, portion it out. We order, we stage it out. Maybe we order 200, 250 meters and we do some change outs. That'll immediately fix what we've got going on and then we'll go from there. But maybe we can lock in that price, that lower price before it goes up again because they're anticipating another price increase.
What was the total cost again? Like,
410,000. And so, I did alter the ARPA funding projects just a little bit because we can absolutely come up with half of that in our budget, but the other half, possibly from the ARPA funding.
So is
it'd
it
be
no
helpful if we had that.
price increasing all along on these, or?
Just like with everything
You just
else.
assume
It's
it-
like day to day, they can't lock you in on a price. It
A year
changes.
ago, they were a lot cheaper.
I wouldn't say a lot, but they were cheaper, yes.
So when you're talking 400, when you're buying
Ken-
100 or something.
Yeah, we probably went up, I'd say probably about $10 a meter right now with the radio and everything, total inclusion, so.
The question is, can we give them an order and have a blanket release on it where we take 200 at a time or something like that to
Through
lock
the
that
next
price
year.
in?
I think that's
For the
what
next
Matt's
18
thinking,
months?
and this will give us a chance through the first 200 to kind of evaluate how it's going as we fix the ones we've got. And if it's reading fine, which he's got a model there to show you,
Yeah, so
and
I'll let you know.
this way,
Heather, would that work if we did it through the year? If we did a blanket order, we paid all the way through the year? We could.
well, I think I said we could
That's what's gonna
possibly
be on
do
top of
3
here.
years.
That's what's gonna be.
On top of the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do it over 3
How old are
years.
the old meters now?
I think they're what,
Some-
15 to
2006.
This is
Yeah,
it?
that's when we changed them out.
That's when we changed
We
the
did a
valve where we
complete
could read
change
them.
out. Mhm.
Man, is this one of the new ones?
This is the new setup, so this is your antenna here, that will be on top of the lid. And then that is the actual Earth's radio that goes down in the pit right there, and that other wire that is vacant will go to the register on the meter.
And this will fit our lids we got now?
Yeah, yeah. So I've got our setup now here.
Right now, we're going this circle, let's fix up.
So this is what's existing in the,
It's a little short.
in the
So
lid right
that,
now.
yeah, this sits flat on the lid.
That's the old stuff? or what?
This is what we have in the ground right now. And the only thing that, this is the register that would hook to that.
This does what that
Yeah.
does.
And this model was better with the cast iron lids, and so we don't have to do the change out and the, drill all the holes in those
The old ones.
composite lids,
Pass it on, I guess.
which would take more time and configuring, altering the product.
So with the Ts and Cs, the terms and conditions on the agreement, if we were to do a blanket order, will they allow us to cancel if they don't work? Find a problem.
He gives a certain warranty with them, and actually, the meter itself and the radio has a 20-year warranty on it. Now, it prorates, of course, down as the years go through, but I don't think that'd be an issue.
And the sample that we had in the ground is working with our system.
How many did you test?
We've got 2 in the ground and we have done them on multiple spots.
Areas, so you
Yeah,
moved them
different
around.
locations.
I thought that's what we were doing.
Different
just to make sure
setups, yeah, we just try to see if we could catch what was gonna cause it to hang up, and so far we have not with this setup.
You haven't had it to fail, you haven't been able to
No.
fail?
So they make one like this, and then they make just like basically a plastic cap that would fit through the, meter lid. It works in some areas, but some areas doesn't, so we just figured, why don't we just do it right the first time?
Absolutely.
Not,
There is a 4 to 5 month delivery on these. That was
Doesn't
the first
surprise
time
me.
you talked to us about it, so it could be more than that now. So, if there's any way you can get that going, so we can give this guy, at least get that part in the
Yeah,
work
I mean,
out the order.
I think definitely if we can just work out the details of, you know, I think what you were saying was if they don't work out, you know, if we get 200 in the ground and go, this is not the route we need to go, I think we need to discuss that with him and see what we can do with
I mean, it might be
that.
an option to just get a price for these 250. Ideally, we'd want a lot of these lower price for all of them.
Right.
But if he's not able to, we can only just lock in the price for this first 250. That at least gives us a chance to get them in the ground and make sure that they are gonna work with our system before we spend another, $400,000 on them.
Right, that would be a
Do you know
pretty
where
good
they're
test to
coming
know what we're gonna get, so.
That's what I was wondering, are they coming from China?
I don't know, I'm sure.
I thought they're American made, to be honest. They've been in business forever.
Well, if
This is what all Matt's Electric.
Can't read it, so,
That's what they're using in the electric department, Cytron,
Yeah.
and stuff, so.
yeah. So if we don't do that and we stay with what we have, anything going forward that we buy from the existing company that we're using, we have to buy a whole new reading, so it will not pick up, so.
I mean, this the direction we wanted to go, it's just a matter. So when we looked at ARPA funds, how much were we allocating for this, when we last reviewed?
410,000, and that would have been 205 in the upcoming fiscal year, and then 205 the next fiscal year. So I have the numbers plugged into the preliminary budget in 205,000 in this upcoming fiscal year. We could fund out of the water fund without having to dip into the ARPA funding. So it could be in that second round of ARPA funding that we look for that second half. So we just split the cost.
That sounds better.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
We
that
gotta do it.
don't you think if we talk to them, we ought to talk to them about the fact of the 250,
How many do we need?
1,500 or
Is it
something.
2,200?
Yeah, it's above, it's a little over 2,000.
So, I mean, would
Are
be
you gonna
nice.
order extra for the new construction? I mean, you're gonna want that some on hand.
Right now,
At 100, if we order 250, that would buy us a little bit of time, like I said, I think Sam got it down to about 141 last month, just doing some, picking on the non-read list.
If these aren't made in the US, or if they're waiting on components that aren't made in the US, every time you go to order, it's gonna be 4 or 5 months, so, it would probably be in our better interest to at least buy a large chunk. I just,
We'll
I deal
we can
with
bring some
logistics all day
numbers.
right now, so.
I guess the concern really, but the large chunk to me, I guess for us, right, would be, you as well probably, would be, are we sure these are gonna work? Have you tested them? You feel
Right.
very comfortable with these at this point?
Yeah, I mean, everything that we've seen so far would not suggest anything otherwise.
And it's the same brand.
So, same brand as that Matt uses on the electric side, so.
City of Palmyra basically started out with the meters that we had, the radios that he's got in the ground now, and have switched to these. They had one meter that didn't read last month. When I was down at the show, I talked to the guy down there, he said it's pretty consistent. So, one
Sounds
thing
like
for
the
me,
risk
read
is
pretty easy.
minimal, or at least what you would expect with.
The rep that we have now with existing told me that, so they have came out with a register, that will adapt to this setup, Midwest did, because everybody is switching from their system to this system that has to handle this. So that's also promising to know. I mean, he told me that straight up, and that's him losing sales, so I figured that was a pretty good, indication that it works, so.
Sounds like low risk and reasonable.
We're gonna have it, I mean, it's something we're gonna have to have, that it puts us current.
You just get something set up for next meeting?
Yeah, we'll get some numbers and see what we can do there.
Did he give any insight on why the prices are going up?
Mike's kind of been in communication with him, I
It's
don't know.
just, the first price was supposed to be just the annual year price, kinda like concrete. Regardless of what the year is and what's going on, it's gonna go up. And then they slipped another one in there, cause when I called him last week, I said, we're trying to get you an answer before the first year, 'cause you said that was the date. He said, well, just to let you know, we're 2 increases behind already, so. Just what the system doing with electronics?
I know I've asked this before, but there's a town close by that's using these, right? Up
Handle, or said you just
Palmyra.
said, you just said.
Palmyra, and they're not having any problems at all.
That was the 1 meter that didn't read.
So you might look at a couple of options, how we can plug those 2,000 into 2,200, whatever it is, into some sort of a blanket that releases, you know, to where if that moves us through, we're able to pay for the first half, and the other half to come from ARPA. We do it in the second year, as we put them in and find time to do them, I mean, versus one whole change out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you get us the options on that, be good.
Sounds good. Anything else on water?
No.
How about wastewater?
Where do we wanna start? Crayfish,
Are you the one with all the
pie,
bad
where do we go? No, just been, last month, we were busy out in the country with wastewater stuff. Did a little bit of tracing with the existing pipe. We did not know exactly where it went through and had to know for some easements. Matt and his guys came out and helped us pull some hose that we were having to figure out how to run the tracing wire through the inside of the pipe, so, pretty busy, but got it done, so. Other than that, I'll let Mike and them speak on behalf of the fun stuff, let's put it that way.
They did also, we had a couple, like one farm where we had to move the gate, get in the fields, just because that's where all the valves ended up, it was the only spot to keep them out of the road, so we could actually get to them halfway easy, so we fenced that off and moved the gate, they had culverts down, so actually had 2 of those spots. We did have one where we had to pay some crop damage, and a little bit of confusion, I think, with us and Bartlett on why it went right down the middle of the cornfield, but
Is that the one that's on account payable over $1,250?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to be honest, I thought that was a pretty good price for what, that was pretty fair.
So we're right out of the cornfield, huh?
Right through the center of it.
Oh,
Is
I thought they were going around the edge, what I was told, and they said to line it up better than just cut down through there, so.
that gonna be an issue in the future if we have to maintain it or anything?
No, shouldn't be an issue after this point. We've got one other that we may hear from, because they did have to do that, but haven't heard anything since he took the crops out. Matt and them worked with him, and I think got him calmed down a little bit, and so. We knew we might have some of the, before the crops got out, and so, just something to look forward to.
The guys laying the pipe did minimize, property damage, they did a really good job on
They
that.
put 53,000 feet of pipe in 3 weeks. And that's booking, so 12-inch pipe.
Anything else?
Um,
The hood bug. You know
Out
what
there,
hood is?
out there at the city basins, Fisher Grading's working on that. And they've got the topsoil 3/4 pretty much done. I got a little bottom work to do in it, but the berms around the edge is all completed. The bottom cell started out being a pretty good sized cell. We ran into black dirt about 6 foot deep, not suitable to put a pond bank on. So we moved it up, which made that pond smaller, but they went deeper, or they're gonna go deeper. As soon as they started making the very west end of the berm, water started seeping up out of the ground. And they've had a lot of theories of what that water is and how it got there. It hasn't really got any more that we can tell, and it's definitely got a good seal to it, because it's not going anywhere, it's contained. But they just don't think it's gonna be suitable, so we had
They being Fisher.
Fisher. We talked to Bartlett about it, had a meeting a couple times on it. They had some interesting theories on what they think the problem is on how the water's showing up. And everybody's talking about crawfish or crawdads.
Crayfish.
Yeah, crayfish.
Yeah,
Mud
bugs.
bugs.
And it's, they think that's what's causing it, and Bartlett had Terracon, which is geological, and the geotech, when they came in, decided to dig some spot holes, and they went about 14 foot.
Yeah, 10 plus, I don't know what exactly.
So anyway, they dug 2 holes, and he said this ground should hold water all
I got to go on that tour by FaceTime, and she was going cross country, and she was showing me the crawdad holes, or crayfish holes, or mudbug holes, and the colony, and all that under the ground that their theory was, but, I've never seen a crawdad hole not have mud on top of it, because they gotta have water to dig anyway, the crayfish does, and they were flat, so I don't know where they come up with these holes, but, they said there's been no signs of any crawfish out there, crawdads at all.
So the geotech people are supposed to have a report to us tomorrow morning. Fishery Grading's gonna look at it, and then they're gonna get back with us, and we'll probably have another meeting as far as what their concerns are. And Bartlett's gonna have to give them their response back, and we're gonna kinda sit in the middle and let them talk. 'Cause-
So there was no core samples done before they even started that, correct?
No.
Could not
But
because
there was-
of the overflow field, because of the wastewater. I didn't want a bunch of holes drilled on it. But it was stated, I think, in the contract, or in the bid sheet, that it did not have core drills. So that was stated before.
We did permeability samples, but we didn't do the core samples. And the core, permeability, we just went about 3.5 feet. Then he dug it for us and set compacted dirt so to make sure, and they tested it, it was fine. So,
So more to come.
Mm.
just like that.
I talked to the engineers earlier tonight, and he said that the prelim talks that he heard from the geotech company was very good, and didn't see any reason to believe we couldn't continue, so we'll see what happens.
We're gonna proactively have somebody go out there and look at, there's discrepancy over how much of the job has been done for the two basins at this point, right? They're saying they're 75% finished. It's not close to that, I don't believe, right? That's what we think, and so,
I don't know for sure.
not for sure, so we're gonna have somebody go out there and look at it and give an estimate of what percentage of the job is left based upon the scope, original scope of what was to be done, right? So we have that in our hip pocket for when they start to talk to one another. These people start coming back out, how much we'll look at somebody else having to finish it, potentially, that we'd have that money to pay for it, is the point. We're not gonna pay them for what they haven't done. So we wanna be clear about what that is, just so you all know we're getting that done, so, checked.
That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
We'll move on to the electric department. Matt, what do you got for us?
We set a few poles this last month. One was for that new billboard out west of town off 22. Put up the Christmas lights, done quite a bit of training. Wrecked out actually there's a 3-phase service north of town on that old pink building. I can't even remember what you guys call it.
Grace shop.
So there you go. We had to wreck out all that. I guess that was disconnected probably pretty close to 30 years ago, and both transformers were bad, all the metering equipment was bad and everything, so that was pretty good learning opportunity for the guys. We were able to get 2 people on the pole, 1 person in the bucket, go ahead and train as we go, so. Other than that, we finished up Denton and Sunset, finished doing all the dirt work and everything like that here last week or the week before. So everything's wrecked out over there, it's completely underground and nothing else on poles, so. That's about it.
Have we got our big truck back yet? What's the story on it?
The only thing that I can get out of Alltech is some of the equipment that needs to be repaired is several weeks back ordered. That's all I can get on the time of getting it back. So it's been there since October,
Yeah.
and they still don't have an estimated time of when they're gonna be done with it.
Be nice to have that for some of
For
this weather we're not gonna have, so,
That's right.
weeks or so.
Is the
Again, like Kentucky.
equipment mission critical?
Hmm?
Is the parts that they need mission critical?
It's an outrigger that needs to be repaired. It's like an inch out of the line. So.
Yep, that's a problem.
So they said, I asked if we could go ahead and take that off of the repair bill, and they said that they will completely remove it from their system to be able to do any sort of maintenance on that truck. Since it's a piece of safety equipment for it, then like it's either gonna be repaired or they're not gonna take responsibility for any sort of liability that happens as far as safety is concerned with that truck, so.
And you were not noticing anything?
No.
It worked fine.
It
That's
worked
the bad
fine,
part.
did great, and then once they got down there and what we had to do, it's like the DOT inspection, the dielectric test, and one other, I can't remember what the other test is that they did to it for, actually it's some of the stuff that we have to have for Myrna for our insurance, came back and that was one of the larger things that needed to be done.
And if it's a safety feature, we definitely
Mm-hmm.
want to be careful with that. And so, you know, we were kind of joking about the supply chain issues in the world right now, but they are.
I'm waiting on materials right now just to be able to start other jobs. So it's taken 6 weeks now just to get copper, just to get number 6 soft drawn copper. So,
Wouldn't surprise me. Most of the copper used in the United States comes from down south, so yeah, it comes on a ocean container.
So do they have an idea how it got elsewhere?
I have no clue myself.
I mean, they haven't.
They don't know.
They
They
don't
got no
know.
idea. The only thing that they can think, I mean, the only thing that I can think is somebody tried to pull forward with the outriggers up. I mean, that'd be the only way that I would even come close to being able to figure out how they would be able to push it out, but I don't know if that was done before my time or,
Being you
Whenever.
mentioned it, I wanted to bring it up to everybody, I've been noticing, I know that I watched Matt in the past, and the street department, dealing with people and working, they do a really good job of training. Matt's been doing a really good job with a young crew of bringing those people up to speed. He's spending time that would have been potentially, you know, seat time somewhere, in the field, having these folks work. And I witnessed it today, they were over by the rec center, and I was there about an hour and 15 minutes, and he had them up in a bucket, and the people he had on the ground with him, he was talking and explaining, and so there's a lot of training going on. So I just really say, I think it's a great job of what the leadership's doing in these departments and the assistants as well, of bringing our crews up to speed. It looks like they're doing a really good job, so I wanted to note that for everybody. And I witnessed it firsthand with you today, so good job, everybody.
Yeah. Do you have anything else for us?
that is it.
Dorsey?
Well, we've covered about everything, I think, between all the meetings and indecisions. Been working on getting prices for equipment and stuff that we're looking at possibly for next year. Some jobs that we're possibly looking about for the ARPA money and stuff, trying to see how much that might cost, so everything else is just coordinating his department. I told Matt this morning, I don't get around as often to his department right now. I'm glad he is doing the training and everything, and I know they're all working hard, but I'm stuck with the water and the wastewater side, just running back and forth, so. Except I may be pouring concrete tomorrow, maybe, so.
15 yards.
Out there. But they're all doing a good job. Right now, it seems like everything's rolling pretty well. The weather's definitely helping us.
A nice weather for December. Okay. Any as may arise? Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
I only heard one.
Oh,
Any opposed?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Anyone need a break? Can I get a copy of the packet, the other packet?
This one? You can have mine.
no, excuse me, Heather, there's packets.
Oh, the package right here?
Okay, all right, I'll take mine.
Give me one.
Let's set the street here in a minute.
You sell one?
Did your tablet die?
No, it won't bring nothing up. Won't open the files. Me or Don's.
Says it's something. Says operator error.
Cannot open the page because it's not established server.
That's all right.
You all good?
Yeah, I'm good now.
Well, it's 7 o'clock, I call this meeting of the General Government and Public Safety Committee to order. I know attendance has been taken. Any comments from citizens? Hearing none, moving on to the Police Department. Activity reports in your packet. Chief, is there anything you want to point out?
I'd like to point out that my place looks better than the water department right now. So that's good, I have nothing else. So, today's day one. It's been a long time coming, so. I had a meeting with Heather this morning to talk about, spending some money to get some uniformity back at the police department. So we're gonna order some equipment, some uniforms, try to get everybody up to speed, and, so we're out there at least looking the same. And people hopefully will notice that. We talked about maybe some training opportunities coming up that may not necessarily be local, could be a St. Louis, could be a Kansas City thing. I don't know that yet, we've got some trainings, but we've got funds to do that. We also talked about the funds that are available for the uniforms and stuff, so we've gone over that. But just trying to get everybody up to speed as far as personnel and trying to get us moving in a direction that keeps us out of the limelight at least for a little while, so. We do have a trail report. I just got this from Stobie earlier, so, I mean, you guys have seen this way more than I have, so if you need to look at that, I've got that also.
Chief Hatton brought up a good idea earlier today as well about offering the board the opportunity to come through, kind of do a walkthrough at the police department to look at some of the things that you know, they're looking at working on to improve, and so.
Yeah, sorry, thanks for bringing that up. There are several things over there that are just really foreign to me because I've never seen it done like that. One of those would be the evidence unit, or I'm sorry, the evidence locker. We're just behind the times. My suggestion is that we replace a couple of doors in the police department with some steel doors. We've got guns in these places, these particular areas. We've got evidence, we've got money, we've got lots of things that need to be secure. The steel door would at least offer the first line where, you know, it's not a hollow core door that you can just put your foot through. And that's concerning to me, and that, you know, there would be restricted access to those things. I'm a little concerned about the second cell that we have, which is only the hallway with two doors, hollow core doors. Completely, I would never put anybody in there. Because you can climb over the top, you can kick through the door, there's no bathroom, there's nowhere to sit, it's right by the kitchen area where there's knives. I mean, the facility needs a lot. Matter of fact, it probably needs just a new facility, but I know that's a conversation for another time. But I welcome all of you to walk through there and just go, well, would you want to put somebody in there and then have them have access to the whole police department? I mean, it's one step to the left or to the right to be anywhere else in that place. And so, to me, it's just a couple of things that can make it at least a little more secure, and I don't think that it's unreasonable to try to maybe get those things done.
All right, everything can be fixed with time and money, right?
That's right, that's a
You don't need a new building or anything, you can fix everything up over there, right?
Well,
Yes.
Good, that's how I want that yes out of
There's
it.
some ideas we had to talk about that we'll chat with you about.
Sure.
Of funds and services we're not utilizing today, some things like that that might free money up to put us where we want to be. We kind of talked about that a little bit, but, could we, I mean, what about next Monday? Would everybody want to go over there after the meeting and take a walk through while we're here?
Has anybody not been in the police department? I mean,
Well, we've been over there, I think, most of us some sorts of.
As far as,
I haven't ever been to cell two.
Invited
I was always in
to
cell, I was always in cell one, so I never.
You probably walked through the second cell though.
I walked
Cell
to-
two that night.
I
Yeah, of course it was in
cell
cell
two to
one.
get into cell one, but.
I didn't say in the police
No,
department,
no,
I said at the police.
But I think for you to
department.
be able to show us, when you start talking about the, I've been over quite a bit, so when you start talking about the evidence, area and that kind of thing,
Yep.
I can understand the doors, but I think for us to visualize it and see it firsthand would be good for us to have an understanding.
Yeah, and so since you specifically mentioned the evidence unit, I have already spoken with Maria Logan, who is the head of the evidence unit for the city of Columbia. And moving forward, I've talked to Heather with this and we're kind of working the process out or how we're gonna do it, but I would like to bring her in because she's up on the best practices of this. Once we get a secure, a more secure area for that, I want to bring her in and to have her completely take a look at it and say, we should do this, we should do this, and we should do this. And I know it will be up to date in the best practices for that. Now, I think because we are already using the RMS system that Boone County and Columbia uses, it'll have a tracking system in there. And so it'll be generated by the RMS system that we have. And I think that'll probably suffice for us moving forward. I would just have to start using it. And he and I have talked about this, and we just need to get, we need to have a better process of how that works.
We gotta get it organized, put a system in,
Oh,
standard
for sure.
operating procedure, and get
Yeah,
it
and
revamped.
I personally believe, I think we're gonna be able to get rid of maybe half of the crap that's in there.
Oh, you gotta go through
Yeah.
it, and you gotta vet it, right, go back and make
Oh,
sure
yeah,
that it's closed,
there's,
some of that evidence.
Yeah,
Got
it's,
old evidence in there?
No, there's stuff back from the nineties.
yeah,
That's the point.
so we should have had instruction orders for that for the
Understood,
court, and moving forward, I mean, there's a safe in there that we don't even know where the keys are to it, so I mean, it's just, and it's no fault of his, or some of the other guys that are there, we're just trying to get beyond it and move forward,
Let's get,
basically.
let's plan that after the meeting. Can you
Next Monday night.
go back and plan for that?
It won't take long, it's only about 100 feet long. So,
Not very many of us have can stand in cell two very long. I mean,
yeah,
Pretty tight.
right.
And it's a little odoriferous.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I've got, like,
Okay.
unless there's questions.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on the police department?
Just thanks to Officer Stobie and
Yeah.
Yes.
and those folks that have done a great job of, I think, helping us transition as we're still transitioning, right? So, thanks a lot for what you did. Took some courage to stand up and say, I wanna help keep this thing on the tracks and help get it where it's going. And to the rest of the team, I would like you to share that from us. I know we all feel that way, so thank you for that. And absolutely, I thank the Boone County guys every time I see them, thanks for what they've done to help us really make sure that these guys stay safe and the city stays safe. So, thanks to
Yeah, oh,
all.
I'm sorry, I got just one more thing, right quick, on the personnel side, we've hired, two so far, and, we've got some little catching up to do with one of them as far as continuing education, but, but we also got another part-timer that'll be coming on, it's a female officer that used to work with me in Columbia, she still works for the city of Columbia, but just not as an officer right now, so she'll be coming on, she'll be working some nights and weekends, and so.
I'm familiar with the Erin Sneed, right? Because we had that meeting where we got her,
Yes.
have we not,
So he's not actually hired yet,
Yeah.
we want to hire next
so we
Monday
got,
night.
so we got two for next Monday nights, we have two and a part-time officer, right?
Right.
Yeah, the
Good.
one full-time, is coming back to Centralia, police department, he was here for
Prior.
about a year and a half maybe, full-time for a year, it's Jason Hicks, he lives in Centralia.
Good stuff.
Okay. Moving on to fire department, activity report. Denny, is there anything you want to point out?
It's been kind of a busy month here and there. I want to run the calls, but this is the time of year we gather up our candy for Christmas morning and stuff like that. And you talk about supply chains. Candy's hard to find too, you gotta try that out. But anyway, we've got it all gathered up, everything done, so wait a second, probably next Tuesday night. On the equipment side, all our air packs are in, except some of our special masks we've got coming. They're in the supply chain too, with all the computer tech and all that. but we do have we all got masks that don't use them, so I mean, we're still good there. And Catherine just told me my box was up there for the brackets to mount them, so we'll see if we can get that done and everything. And as for the, we're still got a truck out being worked on in service, a little pumper. Is down at Banner Fire. They called and told me the other day that it's crazy because you have a Ford truck and what they call an E1 pump and body and stuff, and they're not reading each other. So what it is, it won't pass like pump test. It has to run so long, so many PSI and this and that. We don't run a truck like that when we're using it to pump water, but you have to run it like that to pass their ISO ratings and stuff like that. So, they're down there, they're having like I said, they're fighting the Ford people now are saying this, and the pump and people that. But we got a recall on it the other day from Ford, which has to do with the DEF system, which is throwing one of your idiot lights on your thing, and they're thinking maybe that's what's causing the pump not to read it. So while he's down there, I've faxed him the Ford recall, and he's gonna take his Ford guy across the street and have him go ahead and do the recall, and then start again to see if it'll. The truck runs and everything like that, it pumps water as we would need it, but I got to present them.
Right, you just gotta be certified, Joe,
Yeah, I
like
gotta
you're
present
outright,
them
right,
papers
same
every
thing.
day.
They're holding our equipment hostage here. Our equipment's halfway held hostage, it looks like. Your outriggers, nicked off and.
It's something, but,
So anyway.
yeah, so maybe when they get this recall fixed, which has something to do with the DEF system on it, which is, I'll just tell you, it's a pain in the ass, really, the DEF system on a truck. And, as soon as we get that done, then he's gonna take it back and see if it'll, and I emailed him today about, we had, back in 17, we had it taken to Mockins, and, E1, which is the pump and the fire part of it, wanted us to tone it down to 65 miles an hour, govern it down. They were worried about it, this and that, even though we can't get that truck at 65 miles an hour nowhere in this town. But we don't know if that, and I told him that, maybe that's a possibility they need to look into, that it's not letting the axles and stuff spin enough to get it. So maybe in the next day or two, we'll find out. Maybe we have an answer or something.
That's when we started having our
Yeah,
problem.
yeah, back when they, so anyway, we're gaining, like I said, we'll deal with, I hope we have it back by Christmas morning, but we'll deal with what we deal with, and go from there. So that's really about what's going on in the fire station.
Any other questions for the fire department? Moving on to emergency management. Heather, do you have anything?
No, nothing at this time,
Okay, how about protective inspection?
no.
All right. Economic development, you have anything from the chamber?
I do not think that there weren't any chamber minutes. We did have a chamber meeting, last month. Just went over some general information. I think they're looking at some sort of a retreat meeting in January to really focus on economic development. So we should have a report back by then
Okay.
about that.
Park board, you've got meeting minutes in your packet. Any questions about the park board? Moving on to library board. There's an agenda and minutes in your packet. Moving on, cemetery. I don't see anything in the packet, or tree board. Moving into financials, Heather, is there anything you want to point out?
No, I mean, we have been, department heads, we've met once so far, looking at budget items. Mike mentioned that we were looking at, getting equipment costs, for this upcoming year, so we'll have another budget meeting, probably the first part of January. I'm not gonna do it right around the holidays, just a lot of people out, but we're gonna continue to have our budget meetings. I would like to, do some sort of a, maybe before our committee meetings in January or on a different night, have a work session, a budget work session to kind of go over some of the things that we're seeing and that we're thinking are important, so that the budget, that the board has some input into that as well. So if you can just be thinking about days that might work for you, around that time, sometime in January, we can get that scheduled.
Bills over 1,250. Any questions on that?
No, mine was answered earlier with the, you're paying for corn, I take it.
Any other general government? At the very end of this, there's victims of domestic and sexual violence.
Yes, it's supposed to be under As May Arise and has, with its own section, but it just didn't quite come out that way on
Okay.
the agenda. This, is a new law that went into effect that we're required to provide certain amounts of leave. It's separate from FMLA for victims of domestic, violence and sexual violence. And so this is a draft policy that Sydney Sydney had drafted. So just wanted to give you a heads up, this might be on the agenda for next Monday as in an ordinance format, to add to our current personnel policy. It is required under law.
Any questions on that? Well, as we are at As May Arise, I wanted to announce that the Society for Human Resource Management has a new certified professional, and her name is, oh, sorry. And her name is Heather Russell.
Thank you.
Congrats,
Thank
that's a
you.
very difficult test to pass.
Let's go.
And Tara had also finished her last class
Yes,
in obtaining her Bachelor's of Science in Business Management.
correct.
Excellent.
Yeah, she'll actually walk in graduation in April, I believe.
Wow, wonderful.
Yes, very exciting. Thank you.
And you thought you were going
I did not think I was going to pass.
to. Any other As May Arise?
I have one. We're gonna have to do something about that church. That thing's coming down. There's two things here. I mean, we can't ask the community, now, we've started the process with the houses, and then we got that thing over there where everybody can see it. But, I mean, the first snow, it's coming down. And do we wanna let it come down before we do anything, or what do we? Cause we're gonna hear about
I was
it.
still waiting on a response back from Good Central Title, to a question I'd asked. I'll follow up.
Yeah, church or no church, I think,
The bottom line is, at this point.
It's a safety issue.
It's a safety issue, we need to get it down. I've seen one of the gentlemen today, that was one of the members, the last two members, right? And he was saying that the church is gonna fall down, we need to do something about it before I can even say it to him. And I said, well, yeah, I said, I know, but so we had a discussion about it, but we need to find out from the title company what we have to do to be able to
it's
get it.
changing day by day, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
There's
it's
somebody,
It's
I think
in-
there's somebody living there, cause sometimes you go
Well, they
by,
do leave.
the door's open, sometimes the door's closed,
Let's keep an eye out.
sometimes it's
Yeah, you
open.
might wanna-
over there.
Have you-
Yeah, but they went down across the street.
What's our risk about knocking that thing down?
Well, you have to give
We have
it
to go through the
the
process.
abatement process,
And
right?
it's like 30 days notice, but
You wanna have
we
some
can do
fire
that.
training?
But we're not pumping all water.
But it's not ours, we
Oh, we can't have
don't
yours
own
on
it, so.
We can't just go around burning buildings.
Water, yeah, we would do
So what have we come up
If it's a safety
with?
risk.
I brought up a couple months ago about living in camper trailers at people's houses. There's one on Bar Street that he's living in his driveway.
He's got a
Does
drive.
somebody live in the house?
Nobody lives in the house. He lives in his camper.
So what,
in his driveway.
do we have anything? I don't think we have anything.
We need to do that.
Well, we were talking about trying to come up with an ordinance.
It's kind of.
And it's like the guy down
It's a very gray
It's a
area.
very generic, it's very general. with
the North Island one, that van, or that school bus,
Love bus.
he lives in there and his mom lives in the house, but he lives in the bus.
The Love Bus?
What is it, like a?
It's whatever school bus, it's,
Call it?
Love bus.
It's painted.
Get off track. I mean, it takes one sentence and we're off.
Okay, alright, so,
I think we have to look at, no, we have to look at what we have and what we have to do to make it, before we can
I
enforce something.
think our ordinance
What
was
we're
just saying
at.
people couldn't park them on public streets, and that's, was all we had, I thought.
yeah,
Pretty
I'll need to
limited.
look at the occupancy part.
I thought we did something when that one burnt on, what was it? Clayton Street or Mitchell Street or something. And it was plugged into the house over there. We said you couldn't have it so close or this and that.
Was that an actual ordinance, or was that just,
There's not much on RVs and campers and stuff,
We need to address
It's
it.
very, very little.
Who was that?
I've even tried to throw some stuff out there, like plug in and stuff from the
It's
house.
gonna be fun.
There's nothing.
and then can we look at cleaning up, behind the laundromat, that mess over there?
yeah,
Because they were burning tar out of the back of their dump truck the other night.
we need to see if Sandy can, maybe send a notice to them about having too much, I don't know, that, it's on
Well,
commercial,
well,
and we're gonna do
well,
that,
well,
we have to do it to everybody that's on.
Well, it's time to crack down on that too.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
that's-
them places look like hell too. I wanna tell you right now, I mean, somebody.
I don't know how he gets away with it being over on railroad easement with all them cars.
Alright.
So what we need to do is, as we find these, let's put some
We need
teeth
to
in
bring
it.
this down.
Well, I mean, we need to put some teeth in it.
I mean, he's got dump trucks and everything parked on city streets that stay there all the time. Just something that needs to be talked about and done with.
Okay.
Cindy will probably have to help us make sure we get where we need to go.
Behind
Um,
the laundromat? Are you talking about the laundromat stuff?
behind-
Switchler and Hickman.
I think
The
it's,
body shop.
no, next, across the street from the body shop.
Yeah.
It's Fogel, he's got an under paving company, or
Yeah.
paving company.
The economy tree
They
service
got
runs
a
out
house
there
boat
too.
that's just sitting on styrofoam blocks.
A big houseboat.
Yeah.
The wall of it.
And then they have
Pretty
economy
sweet,
tree
though.
lighting, tree cutting or something other.
You can't have a boat on your property?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that, but
Longest looking thing. Need a different
Okay.
color than blue, but-
That's the next gamut, is the commercial stuff. It needs to be addressed.
and I'm not, you know, Doug and JD Brown, they've got a mess down Bar Street that we need to, I mean, we can't not,
I think they
I
just,
like Doug and JD,
they need to be talked to, I think we'll
Yes.
talk to them, and I think you're gonna talk to them, aren't you?
but I can.
You're special kind of way.
So we need to look at commercial.
They got their badge and.
Yeah, they got semi-trailers in their backyard with trees growing up through them.
That's not long.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's great. I mean,
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? We stand adjourned.
She got the-